What's the word, birds? Kira Macoun here. You are watching our Tuesday night edition of Chicago Corner, but you probably already knew that. I'm so glad you could join us tonight. I am very excited to share many of the stories that we have lined up, and I'm very excited to get enraged about many of the stories that we have lined up tonight. As always, your typical Tuesday or Friday night on Chicago Corner. Speaking of, let's go ahead and bring on my incredible co-host, Mr. Jerry Vasilatos. Welcome to the show. What's going on? How you feeling, buddy? I know you weren't feeling so great earlier. How you doing?
Well, here I am.
I like being called incredible, Kira. It boosts my self-value. Thank you. I'm better. I had an eye. I was fighting an eye infection. I think the makeup I was wearing Saturday night at my Halloween masquerade ball may have, even though I washed it all off afterwards, I think it got a little bit of an infection. So steroid drops are helping, cold compresses are helping, and I think I'm almost back to 100%. But can't wear the contacts tonight.
Right on. Well, you and I will be four-eyed tonight together. Here we are. Cool. Well, thanks for coming on, Jerry, because I know that was kind of in limbo, and your commitment shines through every time. Well,
I had to take a timeout on the HLM show this afternoon just because my eyes were so puffed up and swollen. I was not camera ready, but I'm in my my cozy, comfy sweatshirt tonight, my glasses and my hat. So I think we'll be able to get through this comfortably.
I stayed in my comfy cozy too. I'm actually wearing pajama pants and slippers right now.
Isn't it wonderful to broadcast from home? We don't have to worry about getting all dressed up and fighting traffic and getting to a studio and then being in traffic for another hour and a half on the way home. It's
exactly.
We can dress like this and just be totally comfortable.
I just put on some lipstick and earrings and everybody thinks I'm fancy. That's how that goes. All right. And without further ado, let's welcome Mr. Ed Heller.
I'm never going back to the lab. You can't make me go.
They're still out. They're still on the loose. Oh no. What's up, Ed?
That's gotten a lot of traction on other YouTube channels. Ed was talking about it with Uncle Warren on his Halloween show. Jimmy wanted you, Kira, to dress up again as clone Cabello.
I saw that.
Jimmy Sunderland. I'm just like, wow, I'm glad we've got a recurring bit now that'll take us.
I think it's because I make such a sexy man. I mean, I was pretty impressed with how attractive of a dude I was.
Yeah, you should check out Jimmy's show. It's called what? It's WHAAT with an interrobang, which is that question mark with the exclamation point. And that's over on KRTD Media. She was talking about Kira today. She's like, oh man, Kira's on Chicago Corner tonight. I hope she's wearing that Cabello suit again.
Yeah. Well, I was pretty impressed with myself. I don't think I've ever dressed up like a guy, so that was like my first time really taking that on. And after I put on the whole to-do, I was like, whew, I would make out with me. Shit. So I was pretty impressed with myself. I'll tell you what.
There she is.
Hey, Jimmy, what's up? Best costume of 2022.
Speaking of costumes, I want to share something real quickly. We were, poking fun at all the Spirit Halloween costume memes last Friday night on the Halloween show. And my family and we routinely stay in touch all day long or every other day with family text message circles, right? Through our text messaging, sharing news, what's up with the nephews, the niece. So we started sharing the Spirit Halloween memes, me and my sister-in-law, because she's got a sense of humor. Sadly, I got this message from my dad when we were sharing. He wrote,
Can I do the voice of your dad, Jerry?
Yeah, right.
Which I've never heard his dad before. Just prefacing that.
Give it a try.
Some people have nothing else to do.
Actually, it's a little bit deeper, but I think that the inflection is correct, right? So he wrote that, and I texted back to him and everybody in the text messaging circle, you may be right.
Grumpy
No
father.
sense of humor
not
included.
There he is. He's got
Sorry.
his own Spirit Halloween costume set up for the holiday. We love you, Dad, but you just need to like lighten up a little bit. It'll.
Is that an actual photo of your dad?
It's my dad. Yeah, it's my dad. Lighten up just a little bit more, Dad. It'll help you live longer, as we hope you will. So anyway, and I am excited to report. I ran into the Joker Saturday night.
Oh, hey, how'd your outfit go? Was it a smash hit?
It looks like it. Although I have to tell you, I was literally suffocating. I got in line for an hour and a half, right at the Haunted Halloween Ball. By the time I got upstairs to meet my friends here, I first stop was the bathroom to take the mask off. And the guy next to me said, "Are you having a heart attack?" And I said, "No, I've been standing on one leg with my artificial leg for an hour and a half. And, the costume's kind of heavy and stuff." But I didn't stay very long just because standing and not having anywhere to sit unless you were paying for VIP was
that's bullshit. That sucks.
It was bullshit, but we got some fun pictures and got to see a lot of other costumes and stuff. It was fun. I think it was successful. And you know me, I just want any excuse to be able to pull that guy off the mannequin and have fun pretending I'm somebody else.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I should have brought pictures of our Halloween costumes.
Little
my
do
daughter
people
was
realize, but this actually is Jerry right here.
Well, here I am.
If I had two good legs, Ed, you could be right. But unfortunately, it's all wish fulfillment.
Yeah, well, I think Bruce Wayne had kind of a janky leg in that third movie, right?
Yeah, and the Christian.
Do you have a stanky leg or a janky leg?
Janky.
Well, it might have been both, depending if he'd changed the bandages recently.
Awesome. Yeah, my daughter had her first experience with trick-or-treating over the weekend, or on Monday rather, yesterday. Our neighborhood just gets flooded with trick-or-treaters. We definitely had over 500 pieces of candy. Trick-or-treating goes for 4 hours in my neighborhood. We had to wrap up, turn off our lights on our front porch within 2 hours and 15 minutes. And that is with me going back out to get more candy. It was insane, but I love it. I just know that next year I got to go to Costco and just like full shopping cart of candy because I felt really bad because the trick-or-treating started at 4 p.m. and I was thinking about all of the kids whose parents don't get off of work until like 5, 6 p.m. and all those poor kids that have to come out in the later hours of trick-or-treating like don't get anything. And I thought that felt unfair to me. So I was sad for them. But my daughter had a blast.
Do we have time to do a quick candy inventory, Kira?
Candy inventory.
Like, what kinds of candy did you give out, and what kind of candy did the kid haul in?
Well, I haven't personally gone through her candy, which is I kind of surprising. But I gave out Snickers, Kit Kats, Reese's peanut butter cups.
Those are good.
All the fun size, not the mini minis.
So like the real fun size.
Yeah, real fun size. I only give out what I would want myself. So I'm pretty particular. I could have gotten a bunch of dum-dums, the second, like when I ran out to have more any drugs in the candy. I had that rainbow fentanyl, but that's for me. That's for me.
I have some trick-or-treating video to share from my friend who I was at that party with, Catwoman. She decided to go out with her friend to take her friend's little girl trick-or-treating. Now, wait for it and watch very carefully.
Oh! That is amazing.
That is really good. That's really good.
Did you see it?
Oh my goodness. That is the funniest thing I've ever seen.
She's with her crowd.
That's amazing. I love it. Very smart. Incredible yards. incredible decorations. I'm not quite at that level yet. I only got a yard for the first time in my adult life 2 years ago when my husband and I got our house. And so we still don't do any like kind of landscaping.
You've got
I'm just like, I don't know the first thing about doing this.
You've
What's
got
that,
a lovely
Jerry?
home in a nice neighborhood too. So are a lot of people around you that do the decorations? Because you could definitely put in. You've got the space for it.
Oh yeah. We have a huge front yard too. Like we could actually do something pretty amazing, but we don't. But it also doesn't help that I like own 2 companies and then do the stuff with 99 Perspectives, including this show. And then, you know, the activism organizing thing and then the being a mom thing. It's just like, it all kind of gets in the way of decorating for Halloween.
Multitasking a lot.
Oh man, it's a lot. It's a lot. All right, Dudaroos. I know none of us were like super jazzed, it felt like, to talk about the news tonight. Even though that is what we're here to do. I tried to pick out stories that were at the very least enlightening, interesting, you know, something you could do something about even. There's a real heartstring puller, some victories tonight. So you guys ready to dive in?
I've got the screen ready to go. I'm looking at your show notes. Am I bringing up the very first link?
Probably.
All right. And away we go.
Oh, actually bring up the third link.
Oh,
okay. The third link on that. There's one link on there that it has like graphs on it, but I don't know how to read the graphs. So let's not do that. I was like, I don't understand how to read this. So let's not do that. So anyway,
the third link is state profiles. Is that the one I'm bringing up?
Yeah. That one is easy to digest. You'll want to switch the 2019 report card to 2022 so that we can get the most up to date, because I think it automatically lands on the 2019. I could be wrong. So this year marks the first complete Illinois report card since 2019 for Illinois schools, public schools.
And it's empty. It's empty. I'm waiting for it to load.
We're off to an incredible start here. Yeah, so I'll be getting to that later. So allow it to load.
Right,
Let it take its time. It's fine. So while the pandemic's effects are still being felt, the Illinois State Board of Education is counting some notable wins in the area of high school graduation rates, students' academic growth, and an increase in the teacher workforce, according to data. Governor Pritzker is claiming we've seen an upward trajectory that other states haven't seen as much of. He says that nobody is suggesting that the report card is somehow perfect, because it's not. But it is an indicator directionally that things are getting better and accelerating in a way that is unexpected as compared to many other states. So yeah, we'll talk a little bit about how Illinois is doing, and we'll look at some research that I dug up regarding the comparisons to other states, which we actually have on the screen here. And that's 2022. Perfect. The 2022 school year saw average student growth. Like, none of this makes sense to me, you guys. So maybe if you could digest this for me. My brain is a little melty today. So
I think Ed's probably going to be the one that digests it better than
apologies.
He's the one who can process stuff better than us.
Yeah, I'm not processing.
It takes practice, though. All right, let me look through this and see if I can.
Yeah, I read this paragraph like a dozen times, and I was like, this makes no sense to me. The 2022 school year saw average student growth in the 54th percentile in English language arts and 52nd percentile in math, compared to 2019's 50th percentile in both English language arts and math. Growth measures how much a student progresses in 1 year compared with other students in their same grade statewide who started at the same baseline. So yeah, one of the reasons that makes no sense to me is because I can see how a student might be in the 54th percentile compared to other students in their class, but I don't understand how an entire, So anyway,
I see. This one goes to 11. That's what it is.
Is this a Spinal Tap joke or?
Yes, it's a Spinal Tap joke.
Okay.
I don't. They're scoring 0 to 500. I don't know exactly where they're getting that scale in
It
the
feels
national.
really arbitrary, doesn't it?
And their national number is coming in at 235. And then if you go up to the top map over there and hold your mouse over each state, it pops up the number for that state.
Yeah, but it also, what it tells you, what I thought was clearer, is where we fare in comparison to other states.
That's why you can kind of just mouse over and see which state's doing a little better than you are. So like we're pretty close to the average in Illinois.
We're right in the middle. We're right in the middle. So
Okay.
Pritzker's claiming that we're doing better than a lot of states, which we are, but we're also not doing as great as other states. So we're literally like quite in the middle.
Shockingly,
Vermont is the highest.
Shockingly, Florida's doing slightly better than us.
Well, here's the deal. I was digging around a lot because I wanted something literally that I could actually break down in my brain today, because I was like, I am not understanding these grading scales, right? And so comparing to other states, we actually find that the states that opened up earlier for schooling are doing better in their bounce back efforts, because they went back into in-person learning sooner. So there's definitely a trend inside of which states opened up their schools sooner, and where they are as far as, getting back on track. Now, every state is behind right now because of the remote learning and the pandemic bringing a screeching halt to schools and in-person learning. But yeah, there is definitely a trend of the states that opened up sooner having better scores right now, or bouncing back faster, I should say.
So with the national average though being 235, we are 237, which means we're in the average. I'm not sure how to gauge which is higher. Which states? Oh, I guess California.
The light blues are doing worse. The dark blues are doing better. Okay. And the Midland blues. And then if you scroll up, this is for grade 4 mathematics.
Midland.
They do grade 4 English. They do. We're Midland. So
Texas is 239. Montana 243 in Wyoming. Well, that's a pretty rich state too. I would imagine that the schooling there.
Well, yeah, and the population's very small in Wyoming, so I would
quality
imagine
of education to go around with lesser population, I would imagine.
Yeah, smaller class sizes, I'm guessing, in Wyoming, than you'd have, like, say, in the Chicago area in Illinois, for example. So yeah, those are the trends. So, like I said, anytime a politician says we're doing better than this, or we're, this and that, I'm just like, but are we? And we're kind of, we're right in the middle. So nothing to be.
Actually, at the higher end, though. At the higher end of the middle.
Higher end of the middle. Yeah. So regarding Illinois, more than 500 African-American Hispanic teachers were added to the state's workforce last year. Actually, this area is the most promising because remember, we were reporting on how there was a huge shortage of teachers, and it really seems like they got their act together and got a lot more teachers hired. So that's been really good. Inroads are being made to diversify the profession for the past 4 years. They were among the 2,500 full-time teachers hired in 2022. So a lot of teachers hired in 2022. Teacher retention also hit a 9-year high, with 87.6% of teachers returning to the same school year. To the same school year to year. Even though I think overall in the nation, about half of the teaching profession basically said, all done. That's what my daughter does. All done. Right. So I'm out, including like also the nursing profession and a lot of those, sort of public service professions were just like, Oos. So it is good news to have that higher retention rate for 2022. Illinois for the 2022 to 2023 school year here. Illinois' 4-year high school graduation rate saw the highest number in 12 years. So 87.3% of high schoolers in Illinois graduated. Huzzah! Driven by gains for Black and Hispanic students. It's the highest rate since the Illinois State Board of Education began reporting the graduation rate in 2011. While Black and Hispanic students historically graduate at lower rates than their white and Asian peers locally and nationally in Illinois, the graduation rates for Black and Hispanic students have grown every year since 2018. The rate jumped 6% for Black students and 5.3% for Hispanic students over the past 4 years. Good news. The report card has had some points of concern, including chronic absenteeism, which looks at students who have missed 10% or more of the school year, approximately 17 days or more with excused or unexcused absences, and nearly 30% of the students were chronically absent last year. And that number also aligns with national trends as well. So yeah, that is the state of Illinois' education right now. I know that in general, students nationally, I think, are about 4 to 8 months behind in their schooling. And I also know that without extra funding, extra efforts put in, maybe even summer school, tutoring and all of that, we wouldn't be able to catch up to that for probably another couple of years. But I also know that the influx of money coming in from the COVID relief spending package has been assisting largely in helping those schools and students do the catch up that they need to do in order to be able to graduate and enter into whatever either field, college, or whatever else. What's the word I'm looking for? Internship. That's not the word I'm looking for, but there's
trade school.
Trade school. That's it. Trade school that they choose to go into.
Usually, I'm the one who's at a loss for words.
I was like, "What is the thing where it's not quite college? It's like an apprenticeship situation. It's not an internship though. So yeah, and also it is the older students that suffer the most, right? Because they don't have that time to catch up as a result of being older and being at the tail end of their public schooling career. So it's tougher for those older students as well. But it's good to hear that basically the teaching profession isn't suffering quite as much as it was around this time last year. And hopefully students are really feeling supported and held through this time, because remote learning must have been real shit. Thoughts, guys?
Yeah. I think regardless of how long it takes the kids to catch up to where we feel their developmental skills or more learning, whatever needs to be, I think it's more important to take the time you need and worry less about how long it takes. I understand, though, sometimes we don't have the luxury of taking that extra year or whatever. But, I've known kids who have been held back a year and it ended up benefiting them greatly. It almost feels like, I hate to throw, well, I kind of like to throw in Marvel movies into this, but it's kind of like the blip, right? Some of these kids, they disappeared. They came back 5 years later. Now they're playing catch up.
Who would have imagined that the blip would be a metaphor for what was to come the year following with COVID, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're absolutely right. It's a great metaphor to use.
So what I would suggest is, cut everybody a little bit of slack and give everyone the support they need to get to where they need to be, but have some patience and get there. They'll get there when they can get there. Don't put so much pressure on these kids that they're going to pop, right? That's not healthy for them either.
But how are they going to get jobs and pay taxes, Ed?
That's what I'm saying. See, it's this crazy little machine that they're just trying to churn us through, right?
It is. It is. One report that I had dug up talked about how, the lackluster performance due to the COVID pandemic is going to slow down America's lead in worker productivity. And I was like, fuck you. Oh my God. Are you kidding me right now? That's like the biggest issue right now. Right. So, I agree with you, Ed. I do think that there is a little patience that's needed, and a little bit of patience would really, really go a long way.
We have a comment in the live chat. Our friend Constitutional Conservative has shown up, and I know in the past that I have expressed my admiration for Tulsi Gabbard as a result of her service and as a result of standing up to the Democrats and very handily kneecapping Kamala Harris last election. However,
that was the last good thing she did, I think.
That was the last good thing she did. In response to Constitutional Conservative, great news, Tulsi Gabbard endorses Darren Bailey. Time to bounce the unconstitutional oversized beach ball who destroyed our state during COVID and wants to release criminals back into the streets. Constitutional Conservative, Tulsi Gabbard is now dead to me. Her endorsement of Bailey has pretty much proven to me that while I gave her a lot of benefit of the doubt, for what I sensed was some good that she was doing standing up to the neoliberals in the Democratic Party. As I'm watching her podcast now on YouTube, it's all right-wing dog whistling, pandering, our God-given constitutional rights to this, that, and the other. Give it a rest, Tulsi. Okay?
Yeah.
There's a separation of church and state, and that she's completely pandering now to the religious right has really, really disappointed me in similar fashions to how Senator Sanders completely broke my heart and disappointed a lot of us in how these people are just rolling over for whatever personal agendas they now have. Sanders to stay friends with everyone in the Democratic Party and
to be friendly and not be hated nationwide for, Trump winning, which, oh, wait a minute. Trump won.
Yeah.
Weird.
Or Tulsi, who's trying to figure out what's her footing now that she realizes she can't change the Democratic Party from within to, appealing to others that are not just focused on identity politics.
Yeah, she started out in the religious right, so I get curious of whether or not she ever left. She was always a little bit confusing to me, and then when she endorsed Biden, I was like, I think she's just an opportunist.
Here's another one. Here you go. You loved Tulsi when she had a D. You know what? Constitutional Conservative. I loved Obama. She had a D. I loved Obama the first time. Regardless of what letter he had behind his name, and the second time he ran, I didn't vote for him because you see, Constitutional Conservative, I see the gray area and I evolve. When someone shows me who they are, then I move on and realize that they fooled us. You constantly just focus on the sports mentality narrative of the tribal politics of each party. See, I'm not a Democrat nor a Republican. I'm looking for someone who best represents my values and my ideals. So when you carry on, I love Tulsi when she had a D. I love Tulsi because I loved what I thought she stood for. She is now withdrawn from that and shown me that she's looking to pander to those who don't represent my ideals. So this has nothing to do with the letter behind her name. Because if it had to do with the letter behind anybody's name, I would have voted for Obama a second time, and I didn't. Thank you.
Wrong, Constitutional Conservative. I'm pretty sure Mean Girls made irregardless a word. So anyway, and every time you say when Tulsi had a D, my mind goes totally somewhere else. And then based on our last story, Hobo Roadie has got a really great comment that they put them ahead in school, ruined their life, then put the son ahead against their wishes and ruined his life. No child got ahead. This leaping kids forward in school, I think that's a little bit of a recipe for disaster personally.
Yeah.
And my brother was asked to be pushed ahead in school, and my mom was like, nope, not doing it. So, and I think that she made the right choice. So,
No, I said she's dead to me. I didn't say I hated her. I said she's dead to me.
Okay. There comes a point to where you finally see through the veil of the fake kayfabe duopoly, which
That's right.
is money blue and money red. And when you start to see that, you start to realize that what is really important is not team sports. What is really important is policy. What are they doing? Not what are they saying? What are they actually going to do?
What do they represent? How are they serving our needs instead of their donors' needs?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, and that changes as their rhetoric and their actions change. So it's like to white knuckle somebody because they continue to have a letter behind their name or not is actually what constitutional conservative is pointing to. That is not what the experience I believe of Tulsi Gabbard was for many of us.
And she also claimed in her first podcast and to Joe Rogan, she's an independent now. It's like, you know what? She's too cowardly to completely associate with the extreme conservatives in the Republican Party. That's why she won't claim Republican, even though that's who she's dog whistling to now.
Okay, here comes the goalpost movement.
Yeah, well, and I think it shows real character to be able to shift and say, whoa, I really loved that candidate.
Yeah.
And then that candidate did that thing that I don't like. That's where I was when she endorsed Biden.
Yeah.
I was just like,
well,
what?
you gave her more benefit. I gave her more benefit of the doubt than you did, because we texted about this, and I thought when she endorsed Biden, that to me looked like it was a hostage situation. It's like for her to stay in the party, she had to do that because she wasn't happy. You could clearly see she wasn't happy.
Everybody who endorsed Biden, I was like,
I am too, but I still gave her props for kneecapping Kamala, right? But that
was fun to watch.
Oh, it was beautiful. So she should
we don't have an hour, Lou. We really don't. I mean, the short version of this is, he did what the Democratic machine politician normally would do. He, as far as billionaire governors go, his response to a thing we were still not sure what the hell it was going to do to us was not too bad.
No, it was
setting up. He
surprised me too.
He went and converted what was it, part of McCormick Place to emergency. What do they call them? ICUs.
He was ready for it.
He was ready for that.
Properly. Yeah.
So I mean, sure, the lockdown. Say what you will about the good and bad of that. The truth is that nobody really prepared for what that was going to do. And they're still responding in my opinion, in the wrong way.
Yeah. Yep. All right, we're gonna move on because I think Double C over here is just goading us at this point. So
I told you that about him.
Well,
thank you for the commentary, Lou. Because
I enjoy the challenge, but
I do too.
We do have a.
But at a certain point, this is trolling. Okay, because that's clearly not what I said.
That's where I was like, okay, now it's going off.
Time to move on.
It's one thing to ask questions about something that's really front and center for a lot of folks right now, which is this Bailey fucking endorsement, right? And that's
why do you hate clones, Jerry? Why? Why do you hate them?
But then there's trolling, and then don't feed the trolls, y'all. Don't.
Maybe we should have CC on the show sometime and debate him in person. We'll think about it.
Trolling and free speech aren't mutually exclusive.
That's right. That's right.
We're just because we're calling you a troll doesn't mean we're quieting you or silencing you in any way. In fact, I feel like we're doing just the opposite at the moment. So
I got it queued up.
Yeah, you're entitled to speech, but you're not entitled to how people react to that speech.
Yeah, you're entitled to troll. Absolutely, troll all day. Cool.
Oh, come on. Kit. All right, let's move on. I got the next story.
Yeah, I want to hear an example.
Soon.
All right. So
No, JB.
there's a video for
Democrats
this
did.
next one coming up. Oh, you already have it up. Perfect.
Yeah, and
So-
you know we'll get a copyright strike for it that I will appeal and we will be fine. But in the meantime, I've got it ready.
You take
Yeah,
that in the
that
theater
sucks.
mode,
And
it'll
this is
take
a
up
really
more of the
great-
screen.
Sorry about that, Ed. What did you say?
If you hit the theater mode thing, it'll take up more of the screen, Jerry.
If I do that, I might have problems with the playback.
Oh, never mind then.
Don't do it.
I'll
All
try
right.
it.
So there's a controversial revocation of the urban prep charter that just took place last week. So that's what this video is about. Let's take a look.
Okay.
A big decision late today on the fate of Chicago's urban prep high academies. The high schools often boasting their near 100% graduation rates and college acceptances.
But just a short time ago, Chicago school board members voted to revoke Urban Prep's charter after what they call years of serious problems. CBS 2 political investigator Dana Kozlov is live outside CPS headquarters in the Loop, where that school board meeting just wrapped up. Dana?
Just wrapped up, Jim and Maria, a short time ago, minutes ago. Now, school board and Chicago public school leaders say this move was solely because of problems with Urban Prep Academy's management, not problems with its model or its mission. And it didn't happen without a fight.
CPS cannot provide what Urban Prep does and never will be able to.
Urban Prep Junior Elijah Cooper is one of at least a half a dozen people who spoke out in support of the all-black male charter high school, urging the Chicago School Board not to take over 2 of its 3 academies.
We make the impossible possible for students that look like me. Urban Prep academies need to be renewed simply because they make young black males feel accepted.
Earlier this month, Chicago Public School executives sent Urban Prep leaders a letter stating they wanted to revoke its charter.
The recommendation I bring to you today, it is not based on campus level performance. Instead, it is based on serious and unacceptable operational issues at the Urban Prep leadership.
Problems which CPS leaders say include financial mismanagement, no special education services, and a low number of certified teachers. Urban Prep leaders argue they've worked to fix those issues.
Urban Prep has adhered to every mandate and requirement legally set by CPS.
Substantiated sexual misconduct allegations involving Urban Prep's founder Tim King and a 16-year-old also cast a dark cloud over the school. CPS leaders have voiced concerns that Urban Prep never totally severed ties with King.
Yes, we will. But we can't fail them today because these young...
I just want to remind people, though, when all the sexual scandals were happening under Paul Vallis, no one knew about it. That all came out later, and everybody thinks he's going to be like the superhero to run for mayor now. Let's hold equal accountability for those who are running CPS, ignoring these horrible scandals that are sexual assault against kids. But anyway, I just thought it's interesting. Suddenly now CPS is worried about this stuff at this school when it's been happening elsewhere, and they're not really doing as much.
Asking me to be their voice and tell you to tell us, please let us continue to be mentors.
School board member Elizabeth Todd Breland, though, said this is also about protecting children. Now, moving forward, CPS leaders say they will make offers of employment to qualified Urban Prep teachers and staff members. They say that 2 of the 3 campuses, the ones that they are now overseeing, will remain open, but there's still a lot of details to work out. I'm live in the Loop. Dana Kozlov, CBS 2 News.
You know, the first thing I wonder here is that, of course, we have to protect kids everywhere, but the focus on this middle prep school in a predominantly black neighborhood, while, you know, they're not being as draconian everywhere else as they should to protect children. Well, you've got some leaders at this school. I mean, yeah, they should have severed ties with King. But I don't know. You know what it sounds like to me, guys. You know what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, Jerry, I was thinking it was pretty hinky when we first read about this, because usually it's the other way around. A lot of times the officials, sometimes it's city officials, or sometimes it's just groups of parents or whatever, trying to convert a public school into a charter school, or or trying to shut down a public school in favor of a charter school. So it is interesting that people sometimes think that the Chicago public schools is some all powerful thing, when it's constantly being attacked and by outside forces and sometimes inside forces trying to dismantle the system in favor of privatization. So it's just really weird when people come in and say that, oh, well, the CTU is being like super evil and everything. Well, I don't know what their motivation is here. It is, and you're right, Jerry, it's super hinky that it's happening here and not in other places.
I was pretty surprised that this was something that was actually doable, because I don't know that I've heard a lot of anything like this happening anywhere else. And then, what's also interesting is some of the promises being made from some of the Chicago public school folks are that, like, nothing's going to change. We're going to keep, we're not going on a firing spree. We're not going to change the model of anything. All in the same breath as, like, well, you don't have this in the school and you don't have that in the school, and there's certain credentials every single teacher needs to have. So it's like, well, then yes, actually things are going to change. So it's like, it's kind of a line of BS coming in and saying that nothing is going to change, because obviously the charter is being pulled because things have to change. It does break my heart a little bit to see these students who really feel like they're being found.
They're not being abandoned. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And also the actual performance of the school is incredible. 100% basically graduation rate. 60% of the students in internships, which is insane. That's a lot. And so, current students emphasize that education at urban prep is more than a school, but a brotherhood where mentors serve more like fathers. One student said that before urban prep, school wasn't their thing. Another, a sophomore, cited the program's focus on emphasizing college options by including all students in college tours and talks, not just the upperclassmen. So I find this particular charter pull to be a hinky one, because the sexual misconduct done by a person who happens to be the person who I think they said that, like, basically started the school is something that's very serious and has to be dealt with, and they definitely need to cut ties with the person who's doing that stuff, and to put the kids through this shift could be a lot for them. And I would hate to see it throw anybody off track, for the trajectory that they were on inside of this, like, 100% graduation, getting an internship, being college bound, which we know, in Black communities isn't anywhere near as common for those in white communities. Right. So, my heart does go out to them, and I would like to know a little bit more. And the couple reports that I read on it didn't actually go into much detail about what, like, illegalities other than the substantiated, sexual stuff that came out. And what
which should be dealt with, but throwing everything out because of, it seems that's what they're hanging their hat on here, which is a very, very serious thing to deal with. But at the expense of everything else that it seems is going well there is what makes me suspect in regards to real agendas.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I couldn't help but feel bummed out for the kids, honestly. Because it sounds like they found a real home in education there. And that sucks.
Especially,
and that's the understatement of the year.
Well, especially in a community that's so usually underserved.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. I think that we ought to keep an eye on this story and see what changes are made, see how the school ends up faring. once once
Once it's a
CPS
public school, yeah.
does once CPS does what it does inside of making sure all the teachers are credentialed, who knows, maybe those teachers, because they're calling them mentors, right, in this report, maybe those mentors will get help from the state in getting credentialed such that they can actually stay in the school and maintain what they've been up to. Because like I said, in a lot of the quotes from the folks from the Chicago public schools are saying, we're not going around firing people. That's not what this is about. This is about money mismanagement, safety of children, and all of that. So we'll see. But I would like to keep my eye on this story.
Yeah, it's just an interesting twist in my mind, because typically it goes the other way. Right. And I'm wondering if this has just been some kind of revelation in the Chicago public schools, where they realize that, well, wait, if we can get rid of the privatization scams and gain some more public schools, well, maybe we'll get more support. But I'm just guessing here, because I mean, 10 years ago, I was ranting about the school privatization scam, right?
Oh, I still do. I still do.
They actually, if I could show a graphic really quick, it'll make it a lot easier here. A part of a graphic here. This is a little graphic I came up. This was literally 10 years ago. I made this thing. School privatization scan. Step 1, funnel all public school funding to other city projects and questionable TIF fund recipients. Step 2, borrow money from teacher pension funds, suck all the money you can out of the budget for beautification projects, and claim poverty. Step 3, make unsupported claims about alleged superiority of private charter schools that your friends and contributors coincidentally have a stake in.
Artie Duncan.
Step 4, continue draining public school funding so public schools struggle, then claim that schools need to be closed, consolidated, and replaced with charter schools. And again, I said, once again, the greedy, you're trying to stick it to the middle class. Don't let them get away with it. And this was a promo graphic I made for Bacon for President. That was the first year that he was alive on Twitter.
That's pretty good. It reminds me of that Cards Against Humanity card, where it's like step 5, profit.
and as my graphic basically showed, the propaganda for that actually has stuck. Constitutional Conservative is getting fed it clearly on the conservative news channels, because he thinks that public schools need competition. Now, kids just need to learn, right? I mean, if you got a private charter school and they're working for the greater good and not for solely for profit, then fine, let them compete.
Schools should not be a for-profit enterprise when the futures of our children in strengthening this country with industry, with smart kids, helping strengthen this country's infrastructure. That's what the focus has got to be. And that means that we need to make all schools equal ground. And every school's got to be funded the same way. This bullshit. I mean, if you want to send your kid to a private school because, it's a school with a religious element to it, that's fine. You want to, but the public schools should still be operating and getting the same quality of education as a private school. Private schools should be a choice that doesn't make those schools better than the public schools our taxpayers' money is going into to make sure that our kids are educated and cared for properly.
When you say that they need competition because the CPS is horrible, what CPS needs is more funding and more support. They need more resources so that they aren't horrible. That's what you're not seeing.
School is not a for-profit enterprise.
When school systems get sabotaged to the point where Lou thinks that they're bad, that means they need more resources. It doesn't mean they need some competition to swoop in and steal profits and then become basically the McDonald's of education.
On the backs of children. Education should not the whole educational system should not be privatized and monetized on the backs of our children not getting the education that they deserve.
Do
Period.
you want
Across
your
all neighborhoods.
child to be a McNugget of education? The answer is no. Not even with the best dipping sauces.
Yeah,
But you know
I'm
what they'll
just
call
wondering
us,
when
Ed? Socialists.
I'm just wondering when prisons are going to get competitive. When are people going to have prison choice? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's not
No, not
and
that
that's
one.
not
That
and that's
one.
not to say that we need to completely homogenize and big brotherize education. That's a bad thing too. So, we gotta have these kids able to actually think critically. And I think a lot of people lean toward they just need to learn how to obey.
This is bullshit when the teachers have to go out and buy their own school supplies for their kids every year, Lou.
Yeah.
Okay. Whether they receive a ton of money or not, it's clearly not going where it's supposed to go. And that's
right.
Ed and Kira in my point.
So we actually agree with Lou then. It is the
On that
system.
point. Yeah.
It's the system.
But that doesn't mean the privatization is going to improve the system. It's reform of this system that is unfortunately it's penalizing the kids who have no control and no say in it, and shouldn't be victimized by the petty politics that are played at their expense.
Yeah, well, that's what we've been talking about when we talk about the corruption that goes on. That's a systemic problem, right? So it's not always an internal. It's sometimes there are external forces. How corporate influence affects all these things in our lives.
Mm-hmm. And public schooling has been systematically defunded for several years. Like that's just so.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say other than like that's what's happening. Well, like I said, we'll keep an eye on this story because it is quite a hinky one, and we'll make sure that at the very least we shed light on anything that inside of urban prep that seems to be on a decline after this shift takes place. Okay. All right. So moving on. Okay. So I think that this story is quite an interesting one. Let's go ahead and roll that vigia, and then we'll get into more deets after that.
By your command.
A new study from the Cook County Treasurer's Office details how private investors are exploiting an arcane Illinois law to profit from property tax debt that's owed on thousands of vacant or abandoned properties. And it comes at a cost to communities with mostly Black and Latino residents.
Big surprise.
WTW News reporter Heather Sloan joins us now with a look at what the study found. And Heather, what did the study find?
Well, this is centered on a law first passed in 1872 that essentially auctions off property tax debt every year.
1872.
Wait, what year was the Great Chicago Fire, Jerry?
1871.
Huh.
Am I correct? Yeah, 1871.
Is that true? That's amazing. Okay.
Do we need to get Peg Leg to weigh in on this, or maybe another time?
Well, I think we need to hear the story first.
All right.
Hedge funds and private equity firms because they can earn up to 56% in interest over 3 years. Now, that's when a property owner has to pay that debt.
Wait, let me go back because I missed the first end part of what she explained to make sense of it. Hang on.
Right on. Yeah, for sure.
Here we go.
And Latino residents. WTTW News reporter Heather Sharon joins us now with a look at what the study found. And Heather, what did the study find?
Well, this is centered on a law first passed in 1872 that essentially auctions off property tax debt every year. This is attractive for big hedge funds and private equity firms because they can earn up to 56% in interest over 3 years. Now, that's when a property owner has to pay that debt in full or potentially lose their deed to that property. Now, if they don't pay that debt, that means the hedge fund now owns that property. A lot of times they don't want to own that property, so they use the loophole that's really at the center of the study by the Cook County Treasurer's Office to get out of that.
Okay, so this is the latest in a series of efforts by the Cook County Treasurer's Office examining how officials handle distressed properties and those with unpaid property tax debt. What are these studies designed to do?
Well, these properties, once these hedge funds have sort of washed their hands of them using what's called sort of an error process, these properties end up in limbo. Nobody's paying these taxes. They fall into disrepair, and is in fueling this cycle of disinvestment that is really the legacy of segregation in Chicago and across the country.
Does this study make any recommendations?
Yes, Cook County Treasurer Maria Pappas says the state legislature should change the law that makes this possible, because a lot of time the errors that they're citing to get out of these purchases are clerical in nature. A misspelled street name, or the property description says a house is made of brick instead of stucco. So she wants serious errors only to cancel sales, and she says that Cook County agencies like her own office should do a better job making sure those errors don't happen in the first place.
All right, Heather Sharon, thank you so much.
Thanks, Brandis.
Illinois.
Read Heather's full
Illinois.
story on our website. It's all at WTTW.
All right. Can I say something here?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, go ahead, Jerry.
Illinois hedge funds. I hate Illinois hedge funds.
Illinois Nazis. I hate Illinois Nazis.
Same difference.
Yeah, it was crazy. We had we were recovering from the fire, and some jerks were talking on the corner about how they could make a killing by messing around with paying off people's taxes, and then they talked about how, like, things like spelling errors, like they would misspell DeKoven Street with an extra L or something, and there isn't even an L in DeKoven.
Exactly. So part of me wants to give Cook County Treasurer Maria Pappas some props for having this investigation done of her own office. She basically had two former reporters that she brought onto her staff last year follow the facts no matter where they led. And the facts led to revelations of shortcomings by government officials in both Springfield and Cook County, and right to her own doorstep. The study found that hedge funds, private equity firms, and other investors drained nearly $280 million over the last 7 years from schools, parks, police departments, and other government agencies, with most of that money being taken from Chicago and Cook County's south suburbs. When money is reimbursed to private investors, the bulk of it is withheld from property tax distributions, making it harder for local governments to deliver services, which eventually can lead to future tax increases. In the south suburbs, where residents are already battered by some of the highest tax rates in the nation, disproportionately shoulder that financial burden. Private investors are known as tax buyers. They pay delinquent tax bills, like Heather was saying in that video, which are mandated by state law, and they want to profit as much as 54% interest in those 3 years in exchange for paying the taxes. Investors get a lien that gives them the power to take the property if the owner fails to pay off the debt, which includes not just taxes owed, but interest, penalties, and fees. Investors typically look to profit from the interest charged on unpaid taxes and not from taking the property. So they're not actually interested in the property at all. They just want the interest and all of the penalties. They have an out, and that is that sale and error statute, which she was talking about. It can be the tiniest little error in clerical work, and they can say, nope, we're out. We don't want the property anymore. And then that lets them get out of the deal with interest of 12% per year tacked on.
This is such a crock of shit.
So they're basically making interest refunds.
Yeah.
Is what they're doing. It's almost like that time that Bessie and I went down to the Kinko's and we made copies of these free chocolate milk gift certificates, and then we just went down to the store to see how many of them they'd let us redeem at once until the cashier chased us out of the store. But until then, oh man, were we swimming in chocolate milk. It was glorious.
These hedge funds know how to exploit every fucking system, whether it's buying up these tax liens or shorting stocks and creating phantom counterfeit shares everywhere that they are not accountable for. Look, right. The entire system is just propped up by bullshit. Whether it's hedge funds here or hedge funds nationwide, what they're doing here is a detriment to every other normal taxpayer, or in this case, these distressed property owners.
Yeah. Great commentary. Buying auction tax liens is parasitic, 100%.
And this.
Treasonous,
Yeah,
100%.
we do agree on some things, and lo and behold, it's not tribal.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that there are a lot of things with our systems in this country that we can find that common ground on really, really easily. And a constitutional conservative also goes on to say that politicians won't change it. And I think that is
right. Yeah.
And
on
I
both
do
sides, on both
Yep.
sides. And that's
Correct.
my point. We have to, you know what, constitutional conservative, I know you're very critical of the Dems. We are too, and we will continue to be. We will police and try to get the Dems to reform. I would only respectfully request that you do the same thing for the Republican conservative side, because it seems a lot of
hold up
those,
the red blue.
Yeah, a lot of conservatives and Republicans that are piling on the Dems are big fans of Jimmy Dore because he knocks the Dems all the time, are not holding the Republican side, the conservative side, as accountable. And that's the problem. We are trying to hold what we would normally ally ourselves with as far as like civil rights and workers' rights, social services, right. We're demanding better from the side that usually is supposed to, has in the past offered that, but hasn't anymore because they're basically Republican-like. So I don't think the problem is as much the Democrats. It's a system of two sides that are serving the same class, which is the donor class, not the rest of us.
Yep.
With the D and the R on each side, when it's basically the Harlem Globetrotters and the Washington Generals, as our friend Kit likes to share.
Yeah, it's a great analogy too, right?
Yeah, totally.
So just a little more info from the report. The top 6 tax buyers who profited the most from tax sale errors include a series of shell companies linked to a single suburban Chicago address, a firm run by the sons of a longtime Chicago tax buyer, a firm whose majority owner is a Denver-based hedge fund, a New Jersey-based fund of high wealth investors, a Chicago firm run by a father and a son, both lawyers, and a Florida-based investment firm whose top management includes a former NFL player. So a lot of these people who are benefiting from these tax liens aren't even in our state.
Of course they're not. And then you've got but they want to influence policy. I mean, look at when Ken Griffin ran out of Chicago to Florida, he's like financing Bailey, isn't he? To like change things here. He doesn't even live here anymore. He knocked our state, knocked our city, ran away, but he's
financing some of the conservative judges because he's trying to change our Supreme Court, which I think is also crazy bullshit that we have to have this.
He doesn't live here. They don't live here, but they want to profit off of the rest of the taxpayers' backs here, and property owners and everyone else.
Oh, and here's a little salt on your wound, guys. Further, the Treasurer's Office has continuously sold the same error-prone properties at tax sales, allowing investors to cash in again and again. Wow. So that's what's going on. And when we're talking about how are we going to have the money for this, those kinds of conversations, the money's all over the place. Right? It's just getting sucked up by these hedge fund managers and tax buyers and all of these people who are making money in really strange
hedge fund
ways.
Parasites. Yeah.
Parasitic ways. I'm gonna use
I'm
that.
starting to look pretty good right now, aren't I, Kira? Relatively speaking.
Those two beans. Yeah, well, I think that someone with as big of a dick as Lori could probably have a little bit of sway on the laws that allow this kind of parasitic activity to happen.
Now, let me step in here and say, Lori Lightfoot, I have to tell you that you're not welcome here, and you are certainly not running on the progressive agenda that I tried to set forth, reform the Democratic Party. In fact, you have done nothing but embrace the bad politics of the neoliberal establishment. So I do hope that whoever steps forward to replace Mayor Lightfoot will embrace the reform and the political agenda that I set forth when I briefly served as mayor of the city of Chicago, this fine, fine city.
All right. Anything more, guys, on that story?
No, but let's see. Big Mr. Firebird wanted to know why Pegleg was a no-show on Friday.
Because it was the attack of the clones.
Yeah, he's not a fan of clones. He tries to stay far away from them. They freak him out. And that's a lot because, he hangs out with a cow. He's a ghost. He's got issues with fire, but clones, man, that guy, that's just too far.
Get your hand off my penis! No. What is the charge? Eating a meal? A succulent Chinese meal? Gentlemen, this is Democracy Manifest.
Ah!
Man, that clone, the way he runs is just like how Kit runs, though, I'm telling you. All right. Enough now.
Yeah,
Time to get serious.
How long do you think we can get away with the clones bit?
We
got another few months.
As long as we want to.
So I'm going to bring up the next story for Kira, and let me say we're kind of still in a Halloween mood because this is a real horror story, okay? That nobody should have to endure.
So yeah, this one pulled at my heartstrings today. I did do a little crying when reading the story.
The new normal in Chicago. The new normal. This is normal.
This one's tough. Okay, let's get through it. Okay. A potential showdown is looming in Fulton Market over the arrival of 10 winterized tents for unhoused individuals living under nearby metro tracks, as the city quickly gave the tent dwellers notice that the shelters must be removed by the morning of November 3rd for off-street cleaning.
Oh, come on.
Off-street cleaning.
Off-street cleaning.
This is such a crock of shit.
That's right, Al. I couldn't have said it better. The bright orange. Yeah. Oh, it's pretty shitty. The bright orange.
It's dehumanizing. Dehumanizing is what it is.
Work with the citizens. Don't displace them.
Yeah. I think
put them somewhere that
put them in homes.
Put them in homes. Put them in housing. All the vacant buildings across the city. There are places to be able to put people without all kinds of restrictions and means testing. Just fucking do it already.
Well, and I'm also so curious, like the last story we were just talking about with these tax liens and then foreclosures on these folks' houses, and then these houses are just sitting and fucking rotting because hedge fund managers don't actually want the house. They just want to rate people for their fucking money. And so, so we have this wild, weird catch-22 where we have enough houses, but they're not available for people to live in because there are rich people that are still making money off of them. It's really, really sick, you guys. It's a sick, sick system. So
take your torches and go.
Oh, and and then Constitutional Conservative disagrees about the clones. But I think that Constitutional Conservative might be a bit of a curmudgeon. Just saying. So anyway, the bright orange heated tents, which include a foundation, heating, and lighting, arrived Saturday, assembled by Andy Robledo, founder of the nonprofit Feeding People Through Plants, who said he's built similar shelters in other homeless encampments around the city without issue this year. But by Tuesday, the city's Department of Family and Support Services, DFSS, slapped red notices on his newest tents, alerting people they must remove the shelters from the premises before the cleaning.
Good. Provide an alternative then. Provide an alternative. Otherwise, these people are out in the cold.
Or just clean around them. I just don't understand.
That too, Kira. I prefer that they have more stable housing, but yeah, your point too.
I mean, if in the more immediate future, right? Okay, these structures just went up. They're about $350 to $500 a piece. They have flooring, lighting, heating. They're wind resistant. Look at the inside of this thing. It's just like, give people a fucking break. Are you kidding me? Like, okay. So
Yeah,
Robledo,
I mean, if you can't put them in houses, you should have more of these.
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Well, I know there was also a conversation about tiny houses, right? And like
Yeah.
that, there's all kinds of fucking solutions. Anyway, sorry. Ugh. Anyway, so Robledo believes officials are attempting to undo his work and push unhoused people out of the area. I would tend to agree with him. The city maintains that this is just a temporary move to carry out necessary cleaning. Caught in the middle are the unhoused, who say they are grateful for the warmth and shelter the tents bring as temperatures start to drop. In 2020, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development identified 5,390 people experiencing homelessness in Chicago. And we know that that's just from those point-in-time surveys, right? But really, a report released in September identified 65,000 homeless or underhoused people in the city. Ryan Spangler, an outreach worker from the Heartland Alliance, said that he's been familiar with Robledo's efforts to build better tents, and he never heard of this work causing an issue like this until now.
Of course.
He hopes community members think of the lives at risk if unhoused people are unable to access safe shelter in upcoming winter months. Those tents could potentially save lives, Spangler said. That's what the focus needs to be.
Oh, you just saw that. Big tent.
From over the top.
Nicely done. Nicely done.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. They have big tents, yes. Oh, those tents could potentially save lives, Spangler said. That's what the focus needs to be, not whether it's an eyesore, whether it's a little bit inconvenient for someone walking their dog. This is about keeping people safe. Yep. Robledo said the tents are between $350, $500. They're not easy to take down, he said. And he advised people to remain in their tent, basically. He says, I don't want people living in the tents as much as anybody does. I want them in housing, and that's where we need to shift our energies, not to fighting the homeless, but fighting homelessness together.
Yeah.
Were you going to say something that?
Just that I think a lot of the people in our live chat are agreeing with us on this. Just put people in homes.
There are lots of them.
I mean, that should be like a bare minimum there.
With all the empty housing across Chicago, they grab eminent domain for their blue, whatever, the red line flyovers that are crumbling right now. Okay. Mm-hmm. They will claim eminent domain for any project that's going to benefit their construction company cronies, but they won't do it to get housing, vacant properties for the homeless. It's priorities. It's a matter of priorities.
And we've talked about the benefits of putting people in homes, doing housing first. It gives these people a sense that their world isn't completely ending. It gives people a base to operate the rest of their lives out of, and then they can actually become more contributing members to the society, to the city. They could be, they could end up being the person that solves some major problem that the city's having, but they currently can't deal with it because right now they're looking to see if their house is going to get torn away.
It's an investment in people. Like, you invest money into people and then you get a return, right? And that's how that works.
And even if you don't get a return, the truth is that they just deserve to have a roof over their head.
Agreed.
And it's just about decency. It's just about common decency to your fellow human being.
So I think what we're really pointing to here is workability, because fact of the matter is that when we do take care of people, it ends up becoming actually quite profitable for the city, just by happenstance. But it does. You guys are right. It does start with decency. It's so silly.
Which our current leadership clearly lacks.
Yeah,
I think.
Absolutely.
In my opinion.
A department spokesperson said in a statement that no resident is being relocated as part of the project, and that cleanings generally take 1 to 2 hours to complete. Once completed, individuals are welcome to return to their exact location. Robledo is still concerned that the disruption is a move to get rid of the tents he just built. When he first built the shelters in an area over the weekend, he said the unhoused people living there were surprised and grateful. Just days after, Robledo said residents of the Fulton Market area took to the Nextdoor app to express disapproval of the new tents.
Nice job, Karen.
I know, exactly. Someone following those conversations tipped him off, and that city officials would be coming to the camp. So,
how does that Nextdoor app work? Could we register as Chicago Corner so we can go in there and rip all these people a new one?
I think I am not on the Nextdoor app, but I think that like it has your neighborhood, and then I don't know if you have to have proof that you live in that neighborhood or what, or how you would even do that. But then you can be like, hey, there's a dog running around in the neighborhood. Anybody missing their dog or something like that, you know? So it's like a bulletin board system essentially for neighborhoods. I don't know. I'm not very neighborly. That's not true. I'm very neighborly. I'm just not on the app. So Robledo first started his nonprofit feeding people through plants a year ago after seeing people living in camps around his home and plant shop in Pilsen. He began visiting other encampments around the city and found that tents built for summer were not well equipped for Chicago's brutal storms. Storms often destroyed them, he said. From there, Robledo felt compelled to help in any way that he could. I went out and tried to see how I can help clean things up and improve living conditions and increase chances of survival. Seeing these camps just lay by the wayside, services just don't seem to reach people, he said. For Robledo, if people are left with few options other than sheltering in tents, he should help them stay as safe as possible. I didn't create the camp. The camp was already there, Robledo said. I just improve living conditions and clean things up and provide uniformity. He has now repurposed tents typically used for ice fishing to create a safer and warmer space for Chicagoans experiencing homelessness. Since these tents are not fully enclosed with no built-in flooring, Robledo also added paneling at the bottom that help keep heat insulated in the tent. It also adds a layer of protection from the cold concrete.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
yeah. I mean, if he was to get into like a business where he would mod out these tents like that, you know, if you're looking for a money-making solution for that, then he could start selling these to the people who want to do their ice fishing thing, and then he can use the extra money and profits to provide more tents and support to people all over the country. That would be my solution inside this capitalist garbage system we live in.
I'm also wondering if, because it didn't say anywhere in the report, but I'm guessing we can probably find it with a quick Google search, if he accepts financial donations. I'm guessing he does. His organization, I think it says it's called Feeding People with Plants. So we can maybe do a quick search for that and see if there's any way that we can actually be donating to this cause. As people await that call to get off the waiting list for housing or a recovery center, which we know can take up to 20 years, Robledo feels it's important to do his part. He described the close relationships he's developed with people experiencing homelessness. He said that he visits encampments every day, even a couple times a day, to check on people. Man, this dude is like a really good person. I don't know, this dude gives me hope that there are some really good fucking people out there. I mean, I fancy myself a pretty decent person, but man,
it's challenging with everything else we juggle to try to do as much as people like this do. I mean, that's clear.
It's incredible. Like, I'm just amazed by him.
Yeah.
He hopes the newly installed tents in Fulton stay, but even more so, he doesn't want people staying in tents at all. He calls on local policymakers to take action on creating a clear, quick, and easy path to housing. I hope that we can actually reach some change, Robledo said. Stop meeting and planning and just get someone in power, or someone with influence, or maybe someone with a really big dick. He didn't say that. To take decisive action. In the meanwhile, people are going to be there, so why not try to help someone when we can? Yeah.
Okay, let's see. What do I have it here? I think this is there's a website called The Studio, and they have a thing about feeding people through plants, and he's got a donation thing for the Greater Chicago Food Depository, which we also have. But let me put a link to that in the chat there.
Yeah, and we can even add it to the show notes so that people can.
And constitutional conservative, you're saying, I thought you didn't believe in profits. You're missing my point, okay? We live in a society where a lot of businesses, their only goal is to make profit, which doesn't mean that every business needs to be that way. We basically have commerce, right? Commerce does not equal capitalism, okay? You can have a business that provides a service to the community in some way. You're a baker, or you're a restaurant or whatever, and you support employees, and you give them a living wage, and so they can make ends meet, your ends meet. Maybe you're making a little money so you can reinvest in your business, but you're not in it just to make money. Okay? That you don't have to be anyway. And I know we live in a society where everybody wants to get rich quick or figure out how to make so that they can be comfortable, right? We don't all have the same goal in, becoming millionaires, right? I mean, sure, you buy a lottery ticket once in a while, like that. Was it the Powerball was
said $1 billion.
My husband always buys when it's over $1 billion.
I mean, look, it's a gamble, right? A lot of the things you do are a gamble, but not everybody likes to gamble like that. Some people, they just want to live a comfortable life, make ends meet. Maybe they can contribute to society in some way. That doesn't have to be, hard to do, and it doesn't have to be one of those things where your only motive is profit.
Yeah, my company.
Gary looks like me right now.
Am
I a clone?
For example, I was going to say.
No, that's not what I meant. I have to step away for a moment.
Okay. I'll say this again. My company, for example, offers a free version of what we do. So you can you can purchase our online classes for pricing from $0 to $93. We give you 4 optional prices, and you get to choose whatever price. There's one market value price. We have one that's far over the market value price for somebody we call a benevolent member, somebody who wants to see these services given and provided. And so they'll give a little extra. Someone else might give a little less, but they don't want to give 0. And some people who are just not available to pay for the services, we don't turn them away for lack of lack of funds. And that's because we have a mission that states that we are here to, lead people into connected and radiant physical existences, right? And inside of that mission, putting a price tag on it that we know folks are not going to be able to, afford in general, especially, in these days, it goes against our mission as a company. Now, do we make money? Yeah. Are we a nonprofit? No, we're not a nonprofit, but we do offer our services in that way. Yeah. So yeah, there are businesses that have a mission, and they actually have a passion around that mission.
See, Kira has a business that deals in commerce, like a lot of businesses do. There's a lot of businesses that deal in commerce that think they are capitalists. And the truth is, dude, just make ends meet, pay your employees a living wage, reinvest in your company, be profitable if you can, but don't make it your number one goal. It's just all that does is it just sucks out the value from everything. And all it does is make maybe one guy happy who gets to go on vacation and buy a second house in the Bahamas or something.
Did you guys?
And then everyone else is like,
Did you guys show this comment? Because it speaks to what we were talking about with how hedge funds profit off of everyone's misery. Give corporations tax breaks. No, give them a tax breaks in exchange to invest in fixing these dilapidated houses needed for the homeless. It's never a good idea to have government seize private property because it's abused. We're talking about
corporations need is more tax breaks.
Right. Yeah, exactly. We're talking about vacant housing, Lou. We're talking about tax dollars that are going. They're getting plenty of tax breaks anyway. They don't need any more. We have unsurmountable amount of money in the TIF funds, right? That aren't going to the schools, that aren't going to where they're supposed to go. So they should be directed towards this, to being able to make people's lives a little bit more manageable who don't have roofs over their heads.
There's this slightly warped perspective that we've been given over the decades, where people are given to believe that if it's government, it's bad, and if it's private enterprise, it's good. And you know from experience that cannot be 100% true. In fact, it's not even 50% true. You've got corporations that have basically captured our government. They are telling the government to give them all the benefits and leave the rest of us twisting in the wind. So when you get mad at government, you really should be mad at the corporations that are controlling it right now. That's going to twist your noodle.
You want the biggest laugh of the evening, guys? Here we go. Ready? Laugh with me.
Well, you know that there are corporations like mine that do. I'm like my company.
The small ones. The small ones.
My company pays taxes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's all the small ones.
There are hedge funds, people who are making money off of capital gains. They are paying very little in taxes, if any, because they're making the rules, as we saw in that tax lien story, because the people who wrote those laws in that last story were the private equity firms and the hedge fund managers, right? So those people are not paying taxes. I do think that there are ways to incentivize companies to do certain things. I personally think that if you are sitting on wealth and you're not doing anything with it, you get taxed on your wealth that's just sitting there. If you have a house that's sitting empty, you get taxed on that. So much so that it is in your best interest to rent that place out, even if it's under market value, because your ass is going to get taxed if that house sits empty. So there's an incentivization with taxes for you. I think that that giving these hedge funds and private equity firms more tax breaks isn't really going to do much of anything. They're already like doing what they want at the moment. So, yeah, let's see. I bet I have more on this. Let me see here. Nope, that was all I had. Inside, this is actually a much longer article than what I shared, and there are personal accounts from people who are living in these tents, and their personal stories of homelessness. And it is, I think that personal stories are really powerful. And also, if you want to have a clearer idea of the types of people who are experiencing homelessness, I think it's a real eye-opener. So I invite you to read the article and learn more if you'd like. So.
Oh yeah, let's not get into the conversation about what constitutes fascism.
Yeah, that's rich coming from someone who's a Republican.
No, you don't want to hear what I have to say about the current state of our country and how
we are not the United States of America. We are the corporate states of America, and that's the flag that should be flying.
And that's the problem.
Exactly.
Without getting too deep into the weeds.
Yep.
There you go.
So, okay, let's see. Anything else in the chat? Me being accused of advocating for fascism, which is hilarious. And
onward. All right, I got the next story queued up.
All right, let's go ahead and play that video.
All right, hopefully my browser will not fail me here. Oh, let's go to the beginning and take it off mute. Here we go.
Today, the CTA is going to outline details of its proposed 2023 budget. Fortunately for riders, it does not include a fare increase. The CTA says it'll keep fares at current levels while maintaining a commitment to improve service. That commitment includes an effort to hire more staff. However, Pace Suburban Bus Service plans to cut routes as part of its new budget. The Chicago Tribune reports Pace wants to permanently eliminate 69 routes that have been suspended since spring of 2020.
They should be spending more money on public transportation right now.
Yeah.
And they're making cuts. It's ridiculous.
Well, they released their proposed 2023 budget. Keeps all services, avoids fare hikes. CTA's chief financial officer said it was prudent to keep fares the same and avoid layoffs. It continues to evolve from the pandemic, he says. The budget also covers important modernization efforts and investing in the workforce. So the proposed $1.8 billion is slightly larger than last year's $1.7 billion.
What we need.
CTA has, what's that?
This is what we need. What Kathy's sharing.
Free public transportation. Yes, that would be amazing.
Yeah,
the
forever,
CTA,
not just
forever,
3 years.
not just 3 years, right?
The CTA has seen its budget increase significantly post-pandemic thanks to the federal relief funding. And the budget, and since 2019, when the budget was $1.5 billion, now it's $1.8 billion for 2023. Federal relief dollars will help cover $390 million shortfall, and the CTA has about $1.2 billion of federal relief funding that will help the agency through 2026. Is CTA selling its ghost bus fleet? Yeah. They're marginally spending more in labor costs as it looks to hire more staff to address ongoing service problems that affect reliability. That's the understatement of the year as well, such as ghost buses due to inconsistencies in bus train schedules. The proposed budget would increase labor spending from the budgeted $1.24 billion in 2022 to about $1.28 billion in 2023. That's pretty minuscule, right?
Yeah.
It is, like when I was reading these numbers, I was like, this isn't like that impressive of an increase considering like how much help the CTA needs right now. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but it feels like there's a lot more staff that's needed at the moment.
All the money that they've spent previously for all these other projects like the flyover, they're falling apart. 3 or 4 years after they're finished, they're falling apart. All the money that's been going into changing and all of this stuff that's not needed when it should be going into staffing, I think is a big part of the problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that staffing is a huge piece.
A lot of people made money off all that new construction, though. That really, it shaved off 5 minutes off the Belmont changeover. I think that's the one that's most egregious to me.
Which line was that over?
The Belmont flyover, where the city seized all this property, eminent domain, and decided this was under Rahm Emanuel's tenure.
Okay.
He decided that, for anybody coming from the north side, from, Linden Avenue, going into the city to commute, they needed to shave off 3 to 5 minutes off of their commute by seizing all this land and doing this flyover, which is a new, it basically goes around where the switching station or the station changes at Belmont so that people can save 5 minutes off their commute. It's crumbling. It's falling apart. People have been taking pictures of the concrete that's like literally crumbling off of the overpass that they built there. All this money and all this displacement of people from their properties and literally changing the character of that part of the neighborhood when, maybe it should have gone towards staffing and not shaving 5 minutes off the commute of people who don't even live in the fucking city.
Yeah.
From the north side. You got to get down to, LaSalle Street. What?
I'm just laughing at your cynicism. I just love it so much.
That's what it was about. It was Rahm. It's Rahm making the commute faster for all of his hedge fund buddies who don't even live downtown or live in Ravenswood in the house that he claimed was his, even though he was renting it when he was a resident here in Chicago, to carpetbag his way into, becoming mayor of the city of Chicago and putting in all these horrible policies. Money wasted everywhere except where it needs to go.
Oh man. All right. Okay. Well, and there's more of that coming actually, which we're going to be getting into. The 2022 shows that even if CTA allocates additional dollars to labor, it doesn't necessarily mean vacancies are going to be filled. Especially with that, like it's a very minuscule raise in the cost of labor. CTA has forecasted it will spend nearly $105 million less overall this year than it had budgeted for. Brian Steele, a spokesman for CTA, said it's important to encourage people to start using public transportation once again, but acknowledge service issues plaguing the agency may discourage some folks from riding. You think? The issue of staffing, he said, would fix most of these problems. Yeah, if your bus doesn't come repeatedly, it's going to keep you from wanting to ride the bus. So, yeah. CTA's well-documented decline of ridership has seen some increase in recent months, averaging about 900,000 weekday rides in September, but still short of its pre-pandemic ridership, which is about 1.4 million weekday riders. So that is quite lower. The CTA also released a $3.4 billion 5-year capital improvement plan, which looks to invest in major projects such as the Red Line extension and modernize CTA's bus fleet and railroad cars. According to the plan, there's a need to purchase nearly 600 new buses through 2026, which is roughly a third of its fleet. Look at Oreo just enjoying the rubs. The most significant undertaking within the plan is the long-awaited project to extend the Red Line south to 130th Street. The $3.6 billion project is heavily dependent on receiving $950 million through Transit TIF. A similar one was created to fund a Red Line project on the north side, which is that the one you're alluding to, Jerry?
Yes.
I'm guessing so.
Yeah.
Releasing those TIF dollars would need approval from City Council, and some alderpersons have stressed reservations about approving the plan after CTA President Dorval Carter Jr. has failed to meet with the council. The station
he's a problem.
Another corrupt city agency.
Yeah. The station at Damon Avenue is set to be complete in the first quarter of 2024. I think this is the Green Line. It will fill a 1.5-mile gap between existing stations on the west branch of the Green Line and is intended to improve public transit for nearby resident companies in the Kinsey Industrial Corridor and visitors trying to reach the United Center to attend Blackhawks games, Bulls games, and concerts. There's a lot of money going to infrastructure, not a lot more money going to labor, and keeping infrastructure safe and sound, super duper important. Making sure that we have enough buses, super duper important. But yeah, what we're hearing from a lot of the experts is that filling these labor gaps would actually be more of a help inside of making everything a little more dependable than it's been recently. And these ghost buses and these ghost trains are really impacting people's lives. I'm now in Oak Park and don't leave my house ever. So, but I used to be dependent on the public transportation largely when I lived in the city. And I know that we didn't have nearly the issues pre-pandemic that they're having now. And even then we were having issues with scheduling and stuff like that. And I had certainly issues with buses. So I can't even imagine being dependent on the public transportation at this juncture, because it seems highly non-dependable, and that's not good when people are depending on the trains and buses to get to their livelihood every day in, day out. So unacceptable. Any thoughts, guys?
No, I mean, I think we kind of went through all of it. I mean, covered it all top to bottom. We know it's just another corrupt agency that's not doing what it should be. Yeah, and then Kathy has some insight on the Green Line. That poor Green Line, it's down at least once a day somewhere. No, it's not good.
I've got our next story queued up. Should we transition?
Transitioning. Oh, yeah. Let's go.
I look at this town, and I don't like what I see anymore.
Okay, before we get into Cop Watch, I have to address the live chat here.
I haven't seen it. What's new?
No, I was not watching the sex bots. I didn't see any in the chat. She's saying I looked so engaged. Yeah, part of that was me looking at a bunch of different things on my screen and monitoring the live chat while trying not to sneeze. So that's why I had to step away for a second there.
I must step away. Yes.
You know, gets a little dusty in here sometimes, and then all of a sudden, like, I gotta sneeze. I better turn my mic off and then run for the hills.
Well, we appreciate it. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, yeah. So let's get into this Cop Watch, eh?
I'll run the video.
For Senate compares herself to David versus Goliath in her race against incumbent Tammy Duckworth.
Wait, what the heck?
That's
not it. They always do this. They always do this. You load the page, the video takes forever, and then you get the wrong video.
And then it's not the video.
Is that from ABC7?
Yeah.
Maybe I can pull it up off of YouTube.
That's what she said.
I can also talk a little bit about the information that I have here.
Go right ahead.
As we search for the video that may or may not be available to us.
Right.
So, Police Lieutenant John Cannon, who once served as a watch commander of the Near North Police District, stepped down on October 15th, nearly a year after the Civilian Office of Police Accountability, or COPA, found that he showed a flagrant disregard for department policies and recommended he be fired. Apparently, he had made some incendiary comments on social media, but falsely claimed he had been hacked.
Sure, he was. We reported this before. I think this is an update on it because
you talked about maybe there's an update, but you talked the other week about Robert Bakers.
Oh, okay.
Only
I can't keep track.
I know. Because when I read this story, I was like, oh, we already did this story. But then in the middle of the story, it said the COPA investigation was sparked by a complaint that also flagged Officer Robert Baker's connections.
That's right. 2Ks, not 3.
2Ks, not 3. That's the only reason I remember that. So anyway. I was like, oh shit, this is a different guy.
Another one.
Veteran Chicago
everywhere, like it's clones. These racist cops are everywhere.
It's not this one. Veteran Chicago cop charged with battery and official misconduct. No, that's not it.
No, that's not it.
That was 4 days ago.
Story. Well, that's one that I passed over that I did not.
Where's constitutional conservative to comment now on all the good cops in Chicago?
I mean, look. To be fair, I'm seeing a whole lot of videos about shootings, and that's terrible.
Yeah, that's it.
It's like someone is dropping them from the sky in all the terrible in all the bad rundown neighborhoods or the places where people need more support, and they're like, no, just have a pile of guns.
Speaking of which, real quickly, I briefly saw that Lightfoot's motorcade opened fire, or at least, so it seems like they reacted responsibly towards a Chicagoan who was getting robbed. Did you guys see that story?
Like that? I did see it. It was a very brief. The thing that was posted in our Slack was a really brief article that didn't really get into the details of what actually ended up transpiring from that. So that's probably something that might be talked about and updated on
Friday. Yeah, as it develops more, we'll talk about it. Yeah.
So in Cannon's case, COPA focused on 19 allegations related to social media posts,
Jesus Christ,
16 of which were sustained. One framed firefighters as homosexuals. Okay. Another proclaimed that.
You know why, Kira? You know why? Because firefighters are routinely in better shape than Chicago cops. That's probably what that was all about. And it doesn't mean that they're gay.
You know,
because Yeah,
They're
because they
always
can do
so fit.
because they can do the calendar spreads that Chicago Police Department guys can't do while they're shoving donuts down their
Firefighters
eye holes
are
all day long.
very sexy, though. I gotta say, I love it how they sit outside the firehouse and hang out, and I walk by and I'm like, hey. Anyway.
It's something to aspire to for the rest of them.
Firefighters. Anyway,
and remember, only one of these two public employees claims that they fear for their lives, and it's not the firefighters when they run into doing their jobs.
Oh man. So in one jarring example cited by COPA from July 2018, Cannon appeared to respond to body-worn camera footage of the fatal police shooting of Harith Augustus, a well-regarded South Shore barber whose death sparked protests and unrest. And he said, quote, "Brave young warriors face to face with an urban terrorist, and the better trained professional police officer won the day. Excellent work by all the new batch of warriors. Love it."
And people tell me
love
it. And people tell me I'm delusional, like, with the funny little comments I make about Batman all the time. This asshole actually believes the shit that he's spewing on social media.
Oh yeah, for sure.
He's the Punisher.
He publicly identified himself as Samuel Hipster, the name he used on Facebook. What a douchebag. What a douche.
Samuel Hipster.
There used to be a website. I don't know if it's still up, but it was clearly maintained by an anonymous Chicago police officer, and it was called shavedlongcock.com. And he would routinely post all kinds of racist, vile, pro law enforcement slanted stuff. Well, no one could identify like who this guy actually was, but it was clear he was somebody who worked within the department. And he would post stuff with relish, racist stuff with relish that would elevate CPD over, the rest of us schmucks who are actually living in the city. I don't know if the website's still up, but this guy's social media commentary reminds me of what I used to see on that website.
Yeah.
It's almost like they pulled that video down, Jerry. It's weird.
Oh, did they? You can't find it now. What a surprise.
It's kind of hinky.
Very hinky.
Cannon claimed the students that a student hacked into his private Facebook account and published his contents to defame him and discredit his complaints. Cannon spoke his complaints to a university. Which school was it? I don't have it here. Darn it. Oh yeah, University of Illinois School of Law, where he studied. So Cannon spoke to at least 2 media outlets after filing a lawsuit, claiming that his posts were manipulated to make him look like a bigot or racist or some nefarious actor. No, but it turns out he did that just fine on his own. He says, quote, "I think there's been significant damage done to my reputation," he told ABC7. "So I think the law school has a responsibility to restore me to where I was before these attacks." Despite those claims, Cannon admitted to investigators he never noticed anyone else using his account and for the most part conceded he made the incendiary posts. This guy's a winner. Those posts appeared to be a direct screenshot from his page, COPA noted, meaning they were accessible to someone who shared the lieutenant's post publicly. Cannon later said he meant that someone accessed his social media without his permission, but Cannon did not provide any evidence that someone had improperly accessed his account. He clearly identified himself on his Facebook page, even using his full name for the profile link and web address. He also posted a selfie and a letter congratulating him on making the law school's dean list. And then he goes on to say, "A liberal police-hating class at this law school probably hates the fact that a rotten police officer kicks ass there." He wrote in a caption related to the photo of the letter, "Just give me my law degree, you assholes."
Jesus.
This guy. So anyway, yeah. And constitutional conservative, is talking about, painting broad strokes over large populations of people, like cops. But here's the thing. Every time a cop actually whistle blows, they get run out of town. And then there was that one story. Where was
last week? We were reporting on it. There was a bunch of people inside CPD who blew the whistle on the corrupt cops. And actually, we dropped the segment. I think the segment dropped today on how they are trying to stonewall Lightfoot testifying in this investigation regarding a whistleblower reporting a scandal within the Chicago Police Department. They're trying to protect Lightfoot from having to testify. So when the whistleblowers actually step forward, the Corporation Counsel for the city is stonewalling and basically preventing them from being able to get to the truth of what's going on.
Absolutely. And I really, really wish I could remember what city this was in, but there was an egregious story just about, I heard maybe 3 weeks ago, about a whistleblower, and they were in he had outed some sexual misconduct by a fellow police officer or a group of fellow police officers. And then they were in a training together. And then that police officer got beaten to death during that training. And they were like, whoops, he had a heart attack, except he didn't.
Of course. He fell.
He had crushed ribs and he was beaten to death. That's what happens to whistleblowers that I've been seeing inside of these departments. And so, there are people, I think, that go into policing with good intentions, but over time they either see that it's too dangerous to speak up, so they leave, or they speak up and they are harassed until they are made to leave in some fashion or another.
Yeah.
So, and that's pretty it's pretty normal. It's not surprising when you see those stories anymore, which has that's normal. That's like kind of the definition of normal.
As you've been talking, I've been trying to find the website of this guy I mentioned earlier, and I'm finding something on Reddit from 12 years ago that blog, which was clearly run by a Chicago police officer, landed the cop in hot water because he ultimately, I guess, he was investigating and they realized the blog with all of his racist stuff, and he was a cop. So this is nothing new.
Yeah,
12 years ago then to the present now.
I found a 1-minute update actually from BET because I couldn't find the original video from ABC 7. So let's see what they got here. Chicago Sun-Times reports that Lieutenant John Cannon stepped down after COPA recommended his termination after racist Facebook posts were discovered. Yeah, okay. Well, we don't actually need the audio for this since it's just a slideshow.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So they're just basically covering some of the content of the things that this guy was posting on social media.
Oh man.
So here's an example of something that was archived from this guy's site from 12 years ago. Illegal beaner charged with raping 8-year-old in Clare, Michigan.
Jesus.
This was an example of this. This was 12 years ago. Big Gary McCarthy fan too. Now, again, 12 years ago, here's what I just found in the update on Reddit. Nothing's changed. Blogland Chicago cop in hot water. I guess he was released with, let's see here, with a cop falsifies an account after shooting an innocent young man at a red line stop. He simply gets 30 days suspension from police press. And there's some comments on this Reddit group. But yeah, I mean, look, my point being that nothing changes. I think social media has allowed us to just see and report on it more, right? Everybody can say, well, they're not all that way. Well, unfortunately, the majority are. And even when the whistleblowers step forward, they're getting squashed from being able to expose the bad ones in the department, which, are protected by this idiot Catanzara at the Fraternal Order of Police.
Yeah. Gene asks in the chat if, would you ever go out with a cop? Not a chance. Not a chance. They wouldn't like me much because I talk so much shit about cops.
Yeah. She also brings up a good point. Okay. Why would anyone want to be a cop? I do not trust people like that. There was one time when I was young and ideal that I thought it would be great to be a cop because I could help people, because I wanted to investigate things and get to the truth of things and advocate for people. Sadly, the problem, Gene, is that those are the ideals that we would hope and wish most cops decide to enter service, but it's not. It's about, well, what's my pension like? What are my benefits? What is my health care like, and what can I get away with? That's sadly the quality of who it's attracting these days when it's not what it should be. Anyway.
Yeah. And that's with a lot of, to be fair, that's with a lot of professions, but yeah, I think there should be a higher standard for police officers and the reason
that's
you
why
might
we're
want to enter into
critical.
that job.
That's why I'm critical. I don't want to knock cops all the time. My issue when everybody thinks I'm anti-cop and I'm an anarchist is no. The police need to be held to a higher standard to actually serve and protect us, not look at us as the enemy. Live in the neighborhoods that they patrol, so everybody's working together. But police culture, cop culture, clearly, it clearly like sets a line between them and us, and that's not what police work is supposed to be about.
And when Jerry says they need to be held to a higher standard, they need to hold each other to a higher standard.
I don't want to report on. I don't want to knock cops or law enforcement. It bugs me that I have to, and I always have to parse this with I'm not anti-cop. Well, I'm anti-bad cop. Unfortunately, so many stories are coming out where law enforcement is acting so reprehensibly that I can't even say that I'm. I look up to what law enforcement's supposed to be about because it's so corrupt and rancid, and they're not policing themselves. Yeah, Kathy, that's the problem.
Yeah, police are trained to make us the enemy. Yep. Yes, that is absolutely true. So, and that's also true here in DB. That's definitely you see that everywhere, right? And it, in a court of law, it used to be like the word of the cop was somehow more honest, more truthful, and now we're learning more and more that is absolutely the opposite of what actually is the case. So.
And we're seeing it even more with the feds now. Used to be the FBI, right? They were supposed to, they're politically compromised now in what they're doing. Lying, feeding social media tech companies instructions on what they should censor and basically doing the dirty work for politicians like Joe Biden, who wanted the story about his son's laptop censored before the last election because it probably would have cost him. You had the FBI and forces, this is national security. This is not true. You need to censor and squash those stories. That's what our law enforcement division was doing.
Yep. Yep. And that's, and there's proof of that, out there, definitely that those communications are taking place. Okay. So we have very little time left, and I do want to shout out some wins here. So the Chicago, the City Colleges Teachers Union strikes a deal. Faculty and professional staff at the City Colleges of Chicago have reached a tentative agreement on a new union contract and called off their plan to strike later this week, which is supposed to take place on Thursday. Okay, the workers represented by the, what's that?
I'm going to chalk this up as a tentatively positive piece of news.
Yeah, I know. Well, the tentative tentative contract agreement, I think will have you thinking correctly on that, Ed. The workers represented by the Cook County College Teachers Union had been in negotiations with City Colleges administrators for more than a year over pay, class sizes, and other educational supports. The strike was planned for Wednesday, not Thursday, pardon. We're so happy to announce that our union bargaining team was able to secure a tentative agreement last night and avert a strike. So, like I said, this agreement is tentative, but they put out a little victory video. And it is, did I put that Twitter link on?
You did. Let me copy it. Of course, unless Ed can open it faster, I think it's gonna
that was
my Twitter to load.
I thought it was a lovely video, so let's go ahead and share in their victory lap here.
Got it, Ed?
Okay, I got it.
To the administration of the city colleges that we need a fair contract. And if you'll recall, those of you who were here 4 years ago in this very hall, a hall aptly named for great leaders, Karen Lewis and Jackie Vaughn. I had a student who had had a tattoo on his arm from the concentration camp in Cambodia he was in. What I learned from that, every one of those people sacrificed so much to be here in this city, the promise of America and our democracy. Truman College and the city colleges, to me, was the pinnacle of American public education. And I still believe that.
It is our solidarity that kept us safe through COVID. It is our solidarity that made them bend to our will for safety. It is our solidarity that is not just going to land you a contract, not just give you common good, not just give you and your family what you need, but this entire city of Chicago.
Everybody else, including Lori, knows that we love our students, we love our city, and we're going to make sure that that love and care is demonstrated in that contract. Let's put a good, healthy contract, you all. Let's put a good, healthy contract, y'all. Come on, look at 1,600. When we fight, we win.
I think that was Brandon at the end.
It was Brandon. Yep.
Good for them.
And then we have a couple comments in the chat. Kathy says, and that appointed last minute board of trustees needs to be elected. And then this is an interesting comment. They wait until the union print sides before they negotiate. Yeah.
Check those signs for union bugs. That's all I'm saying.
Speaking of unions.
And another group of baristas are ready to unionize. Let's hit it.
Employees at the Starbucks inside Willis Tower have become the latest group of coffee makers to file for a union with the labor board. They join a growing trend of Starbucks baristas across the country who are trying to unionize. The Willis Tower location is one of the busiest Starbucks in the country. In a statement to CBS 2, Starbucks said it believes, quote, "We are better together as partners without a union between us." The company also said it will continue to cooperate with its partners. Employees at the Starbucks inside Willis Tower have become the latest group of
with its partners. Sure. Sure you will. So
Just honor the unions.
So being that it's one of the busiest Starbucks in the nation, do you think they're going to be willing to shut this Starbucks down like they have been doing the other Starbucks that have been attempting to unionize?
No, Sears Tower.
I wouldn't put it past them, Kira. They've got so many stores elsewhere. I mean, if they just want to like punish the union and, you know, lower over them, I wouldn't put it past them. I wouldn't put it past them doing it. They can afford to if they wanted to.
So just like all of the other worker strikes, we will keep our eye on that one as well. But we do know Starbucks is leading the way in some union busting. I'll tell you what, it is amazing.
Yeah.
So that's some updates on worker strikes. And then lastly, we just wanted to put out this, what's the word I'm looking for? Words not coming to me today.
Put out this checklist?
This checklist, this, something that you can look at to help you.
Oh, reference guide for the election.
Yes,
yeah,
a guide. This guide for you to check your judges. To check your judges. I know, Kathy, you did the hard work. I think you emailed me and you said something that had taken you like an hour and a half to actually to go through and look at through all the judges in one of the other guides that we had sent out. This one is from the Injustice Watch. And so they did the legwork here. And if you want to find that guide online, the link to it is in the show notes. So because since we elect our judges here, and judges are ultimately the folks who make final decisions on things, I think it's a very important duty. Please make sure to be clear on who you're voting for and who you're ousting or who you're choosing to oust. So check it out.
Yeah. So, my strategy, of course, is, find out who you're keeping and then vote the rest of them out. Because, there's not going to be too many people voting no on all of the judges. And the truth is most of them get retained. And so if there's nothing good worth keeping them for, vote against them, because odds are you flip a coin and get a better judge in there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Awesome, y'all. Great show. Whew. One heck of a show. Man, coming into this show being a little soggy brained was not the best choice. But I can't say that it was really a choice at all.
We had a duty and responsibility to broadcast tonight.
Oh, yes, we did. And great work to both of you. Thank you, as always, for being such a great support system and making this show happen. I appreciate you both very, very much. You can see Chicago Corner again on Friday evening at 7:30 when Mr. Jerry Vasilatos will take the reins and lead the conversation. Ed will also be there. I will not be there on Friday. Will Kit Cabello be joining?
He's always welcome if he's not juggling other things. I will extend the invitation to him.
Yeah, and if there's any of his clones are in town, come see us. We're looking for you.
Except behave. You must behave.
We'll feed you.
All right, guys. Well, good night. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, everybody, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
Get out. And don't come back until you've redeemed yourselves.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.